Hello everybody and welcome to another 10 ticket commander deck. Today I've built a deck for Vishgraz the Doomhive, a new Phyrexia all will be one commander from the commander set Phyrexia all will be one commander. Vishgraz the Doomhive is probably the commander in the boxes that interest me the most. A big reason is the flavor is really cool. Look at the guy, he looks terrifying. Number 2, Abzan is probably my favorite color combination. It just works really well for me. I like Abzan a lot. And honestly, Poison is the new hotness, so I figured I might as well build a deck, try it out, and see how it goes. Once again, if you're not aware of what this series is, I have built a commander deck for only 10 tickets on Magic the Gathering Online. As you can see, this card is a lot more expensive in paper, $350 versus 9 tickets, which are $9 American dollars and 2 cents. So you'll need 10 American dollars to build this deck and play with it. This is kind of like a framework for you can start with and like expand as you get more, curious to try it out more. But MTGO might be a little bit dated looking. A little bit is kind of also being generous. But it is a very fun way to play Commander, and it's a very cheap way to play Commander, because if you look at this stuff, like, this is a penny. This is 56 cents. This land is 5 cents. Comparing this to paper, 51 cents. This Elish Norn is $38. In MTGO, 35 cents. So it's a great way to play with cards that might be outside of what you can play with in paper due to budget concerns. And you can play with great people. And matches fire all the time. I record a lot of I record a lot of this gameplay stuff in the afternoons. So you can definitely find people to play with if you're curious. But let's talk about the deck, shall we? So Vishgraz over here. When it enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might tokens, artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1, and this creature can't block. Vishgraz gets +1/+1 for every poison counter your opponents have. Notably, Vishgraz also has Menace and Toxic 1, where players dealt combat damage by this creature also get a poison counter. They get a poison counter equal to their Toxic value. So we look at this and we're thinking we want to poison our opponents out. Players lose if they have 10 poison counters. It is harder to win this way in Commander because you have 3 opponents and you kind of have to divvy them out equally. However, Vishgraz has some good things going for him. He's really good with flicker effects, which happen to be in his color. Wow. He's also really good with token doubling effects, which, yes, again, happen to be in his color. Lastly, something that I think is very nice about Vishgraz is that you actually don't need to really win with you don't really need to win with poison because he gets +1/+1 for each poison counter your opponents have, which means it is very viable for Vishgraz to also just like poison damage his opponent. Commander damage his opponents to death. So with all that in mind, let's just talk about the cards. I'm going to kind of just rapid fire through them. There is a link both to the Moxfield and the MTG Goldfish deck links down below if you want to just follow at your own pace or just leave the video. I don't care. If it's easier for you, just go for it. However, at the end, I have a match or two to showcase the deck in action. Because 10 ticket decks can compete on MTGO because there's a lot of good cards you can get for your budget. Basilica Shepherd is not necessarily one of them, but it is a good card. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might artifact creature tokens with Toxic 1. So we're just going to call them the Mites until the end of the video. Obviously, this is good with the flicker effects, with token doubling effects, and it just kind of furthers our game plan. Birds of Paradise is a mana rock. It's a bird. It's going to give us more mana. Blightbelly Rat, Toxic 1. So Toxic is what we're looking for on a lot of these cards. There's going to be a lot of cards from Phyrexia. It makes sense. There's a lot of support for Vishgraz in these cards. But it also has, when it dies, Proliferate, where you get to basically choose any counters you want and add another one. And Blightbelly Rat is very nice with that. Cankerbloom, sacrifice it to choose one. Destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, Proliferate. Pay 1 to do this, of course. This is also just a really good card because removal is important. We want to be able to interact with our opponents. And also, if we don't need to interact with our opponents, there's a Proliferate option right there. Champion of Lambholt can work well with the Mites. Creatures with power less than Champion of Lambholt's power can't block creatures you control. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of Lamholt. This is a way that we can work for it to make the mites unblockable, in a way. Crawling Chorus, Toxic 1, when it dies, create a mite. Pretty simple. Elish Norn, you gotta play with her. You gotta. The new Elish Norn is still too expensive on MTGO right now. And she probably will be very expensive for a very long time until she sees some more reprints. But regular Elish Norn, as I said, it was 35 cents. Old Elish Norn. So Vigilance, other creatures you control get +2/+2. Turn your mites into 3/3s. And more importantly, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. A big problem with this deck is if people can block your little tokens, and if you can wipe their board, hey, that's better. Eternal Witness, when it enters the battlefield, you may return target card from a graveyard to your hand. This works well because we want to play Vishgraz a lot. We want to get his enter the battlefield triggers as much as we can. So if we have ways to bring him back or other cards back from our graveyard, that's good. So Eternal Witness is really nice for that. Evolution Sage, when a land enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. Hey, how about each time you play a land, you give your opponents a poison counter? Seems good. Flicker Wisp, return Flicker, most likely Vishgraz, but you also can see with Basilica Shepherd. Even Eternal Witness can be nice. Finn the Fangbearer, whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, that player gets 2 poison counters. We don't have a lot of synergy with him. This guy's basically just like an Infect 2 in a way, but he's a nice blocker as well. Gloom Shrieker and Golgari Finebroker, they both return target permanents from your graveyard to your hand. You can use this to grab Vishgraz and other effects. Ichor Rats, when it enters the battlefield, each player gets a poison counter. Anything that gives each player a poison counter is very nice. It's basically like attacking with a mite. It also allows you to get the proliferation going, and this creature also has Infect all on his own. Notably, Infect is different than Toxic. So Infect, you deal damage in the form of -1/-1 counters, and you also deal damage to players in the form of poison counters. So this guy basically has Toxic too. Indoctrination Attendant, Toxic 1, when it enters the battlefield, you may return another permanent you control to its owner's hand. If you do, create a 1/1 mite. Bouncing good things, like Ichor Rats even, is really nice. Necrogen Raw Priest, Toxic 2. Whenever creature control with Toxic deals combat damage to a player, that player gets an additional poison counter. Target creature you control with Toxic gains Death Touch until end of turn. Hey. Hey. This card's really nice because it makes all of your characters essentially just have more Toxic. Very good for killing opponents. Plague Mirror, it's a mana rock, but also has Infect. Plague Nurse, Toxic 2. Each other creature you control with Toxic 1. Each other creature you control with Toxic gains Toxic 1 until end of turn. Activate only once each turn. Once again, giving you more juice for your lovely mites. Plague Stinger, Flying Infect. It's nice and simple. You're not going to write home about it, but if you can start putting poison counters as early as turn 3, your deck's going to be better for it. Sakura Tribe Elder, because we want land. We're a 3-color deck. We're also a 3-color budget deck. So we're not going to be able to run things, even though like fetch lands are a lot cheaper on MTGO, they're still not within our budget. So we need to look for these wherever we can. That's why you'll also notice that a good chunk of our economy is actually going into, we want to get good mana. Things that we can grab. So much so that we're actually splurging a bit on a Temple Garden here. Because the nice thing about this is that it's a Temple Garden that you can then start using in your other decks as well. But once again, this is just kind of like a framework for you to start off. You can just have this be a Selesnya Guildgate, which I don't even think we actually have. Actually, I'm not even running any Guildgates in here. Look at that. But the Selesnya Guildgate instead of the Temple Garden, and buy some other cards instead. Alright, Sereth, the Viper's Fang. Other tap creatures you control have Death Touch. Hey, once again, Finn the Fangbearer. Seems good. And then untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. This can make you protect your good old Vishgraz, but it also can allow you to give them Hexproof on a whim. Very nice card. Slaughter Singer, Toxic 2. Whenever the creature you control with Toxic attack, it's +1/+1 until end of turn. Once again, nothing to write home about, but it fits with the flavor of the deck, and it's a Phyrexia card, and it's all will be one, you know? Toski, Bearer of Secrets. Oh, I'm curious. So Toski... Sorry, let me just get rid of the giant card. So Toski, 56 tickets. In paper, he's not that... I mean, like, he is that bad. $10 for a piece of cardboard is kind of a lot. $10 Toski in paper is pretty much is more than the cost of this deck. So Toski is a great card where it can't be countered, indestructible, attacks each combat if able. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Wow, good card. It's very good. Trust me. He's a very good card. On to Venomous Brutalizer. Toxic 3. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 and a green. If you do, proliferate. Viridian Corruptor. Infect. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact. Does a lot of things. Infects. Interaction. Very happy. And then Vishgraz is also down here. We have Battle Royale. I think that's a little bit of an issue. I think I'll have to edit that out when we get there. However, Battle Royale. Oh, so I was like, what? Switch printing. Yeah, just give me like this one, please. Man, it got me. It got me. So we'll get back to that one. That is the Fortnite exclusive. What's happened over here? Something's wrong with my... Oh, there we go. Well, everything's good. That's actually really funny that it got me there. Okay, Calling Ritual. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add green or black for each permanent destroyed this way. Board Wrath, great for tokens. Even though you're going to you might destroy your own stuff with this, it is going to give you mana. But it also, you need to have board wipes just in case things go south for you. Cultivate grabs mana. Farseek grabs Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain. So it'll grab the Temple Garden, which is good. Because it doesn't say basic, notably. It just says search for it and put it in the battle, and then shuffle your library, put it on the battlefield tab. Geth Summons, return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard. For each opponent who is corrupted, so 3 or more poison counters, put up to 1 target creature from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. This is very nice. If Vishgraz gets killed, you can just use this to bring him back. Put him in your graveyard instead of the command zone. Infectious Inquiry, you draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. Each opponent gets a poison counter. Very nice. Kodama's Reach, land ramp. We want it. Merciless Eviction, another board wipe. This could be something different. This is just, I like Merciless Eviction, but it could be something better. It's just a big old board wipe. Nature's Lore. Search your library for a forest card, put on the battlefield tapped. Once again, not a basic forest, so you can grab like a Temple Garden. You can grab the Overgrown Tomb. Noxious Assault. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature blocks this turn, its controller gets a poison counter. So this is like a way that you can close out the game. This is a way that you can actually finish the game with. Same with, we're just going to jump to Triumph of the Hordes. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain Trample and Infect. This is also a finisher in your deck. Thirsting Roots. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it and put it into your hand, or proliferate. Good in the early game, good in the late game. Unnatural Restoration. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, like maybe Vishgraz or something else that you want to get and use, and then you get a proliferate. Then we have Wormquake, which is another card that is from the Phyrexia All Will Be One Commanders. Corrupted grade a an XX green. Create an XX green Phyrexian Worm creature token with Trample and Toxic 1, or X is the amount of mana you spent to cast the spell. So a 6/6 flashback into a 10/10. Then for each opponent with 3 or more poison counters, you create another one of those tokens. That's a good, also, late game card. Anguish Unmaking is great removal. Charge of the Mites. Charge of the Mites deals damage equal to the number of creatures that you control to target creature or planeswalker, or you can just make 2 Mites. This being at instant speed. Is very nice. You can surprise your opponents with it at the end of the turn. To get more mites than they were anticipating. Clever Concealment is another powerful card you can convoke, so creatures can help you pay for it, and any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. This is a way for you to protect your mites. You're going to be putting a lot of effort into putting your mites on the battlefield. This allows you to protect them. Also can protect our big boy, Vishgraz. Eerie Interlude. Accidentally, any number of target creatures you control, return them at the beginning of the battlefield. Sorry. I just recorded a bunch and did a bunch, so my brain's a little bit mushy. Return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This is a good way for you to protect our good friend, Vishgraz, but it also allows you to get more enter the battlefield effects, which we're going to start being able to take advantage of when we get to these enchantments. Generous Gift is interaction. Infectious Bite is interaction that also gives poison counters. Malakir Rebirth is a way for us to protect Vishgraz while also being a land in our deck, because it turns into just a Malakir Mire, which is just taps for black, enters tapped. But being able to protect our good friend Vishgraz with this is very nice. Mortify is just some more removal. Swords to Plowshares is removal, and Vraska's Fall is also removal, where each opponent sacrifices a creature and gets a poison counter. All right, into our artifacts. Chromatic Lantern is going to help our lands out a good chunk. Conjurer's Closet. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. Vishgraz obviously is really good. Very scary if he's able to produce multiple mites. Contagion Clasp, a little bit of interaction, but also has Proliferate. And then also, Contagion Engine is like a big version of it. Proliferate, then Proliferate again. These are also very good cards that our opponents are not going to be happy to see if we have the mana to use them. Golgari's Signet to help us do some mana. Norn's Annex to protect us, because I did note that we drew some scary hate in all the games that I played with this one. It makes sense. It's a little bit spooky. Panharmonicon, whenever an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a trigger ability to trigger, you gotta do it again. Works with Vishgraz very well. Skyclave Relic is just some ramp of choice. Soul Ring and Swiftfoot Boots. Soul Ring needs no introduction. It's just a staple. Swiftfoot Boots to help us protect our Vishgraz. Into our enchantments, we have a lot of stuff here. Anointed Procession. If an effect will create one or more tokens, it creates twice that many. Behind the scenes, creatures you control have Skulk. They can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. You can also pump them, if that'll help you win as well, because we might not always win by poison. We might sometimes have to win by damage. Ghostly Prison is another way to keep us protected. Parallel Lives. If an effect will put one or more tokens on the battlefield, put twice that many. And then we got Skrelv's Hive. At the end of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 colorless Phyrexian Might. As long as an opponent has 3 or more creatures you control with Toxic have lifelink. Gives us some longevity in the game as well. And then Teleportation Circle. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So it's like the Conjurer's Closet, but different. Can also do artifacts. So you could use it on like Contagion Engine, for example. Yeah. So yeah, then we have a bunch of lands here. I think, like, once again, the land base you can kind of do as you see fit. Our colorless lands we tried to keep to a minimum. We just have a Karn's Bastion to just offer some more colorless, sorry, some more proliferate. And then otherwise, the lands are pretty straightforward. I was able to get to... Seed Core is another one where it allows you to spend mana on Phyrexian creature spells, which we have a lot of. This could be something else if you don't enjoy it too much. Just some options for you. But yeah, that's the Vishgraz deck. I have some videos where we can see it in action. 10 tickets, really fun deck to play, and it seems, from the games that I've played with it, it seems to be quite powerful. So why don't we see it in action, and yeah, thanks for watching. Alright, game time for this awesome deck. I will say, before I start playing it, this one, it's off to a very explosive start. Classic fast mana in EDH, am I right? Soul Ring turn 1 can really change things. But once again, I'm showing this video to showcase what the deck is actually like capable of in those big explosive moments, even when your opponent does actually have interaction for how things are going to go. So why don't we dive in and get this game going? So our beautiful strong commander Vishgraz is very fun to play. I have a great time playing this one. We're up against a Zurgo deck. Haste attacks each combat if able. Indestructible as long as it's your turn. Whenever a creature dealt damage by it dies, you have +1/+1 counter on it. Jol Rael. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a cat token, and you can creatures you control get SX toughness, where X is the number of cards in your hand. And then we have the Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow, Commander Ninjutsu, and whenever ninja you control deals combat damage to a player via the top card of your library and put that card into play, into your hand, so each opponent loses life equal to the card's mana value. So, as you can see, down here on our side of the board, we got out a Soul Ring on turn 1, which is really good, which allows us to also play a Cultivate on turn 2, which is just going to further give us more mana. The Skyclave Relic, basically we had a hand that I kept because I was like, there's a lot of good stuff here in terms of ramp. Are we going to have the longevity to get through the game? Cultivate here, grabbing the other 2 colors for what we need, which is going to allow us to get to 5 mana when we untap on turn 3. So this is a very explosive start. As I said, this is kind of just like particular, like, this is going to make any deck look good compared to what your opponents are doing, but I think it's important to showcase what a deck is capable of, even at $10 on Magic the Gathering Online, when the majority of your cards only cost a penny. Swiftfoot Boots over here on the Zergo deck to make Zergo protected and also other things. A Wildborn Preserver, which reach flash whenever a non-token human creature enters the battlefield under control. You may pay X. If you do, put X +1/+1 counters on Wildborn Preserver. The Invisible Stalker came at me, which was then ninjutsu'd into the Yuriko, and we had the Bloodchief's Thirst on the Preserver, which I think ultimately was probably not the best thing to do there, especially because our Vishgraz is going to be coming. It makes total sense for Kidbar, I don't like to, not the username, scratch that, for Yuriko to attack into me, because look at how things are looking. We did a kicked Skyclave Relic on turn 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. What I also like about the Skyclave Relic, and while I'll always play it in a good chunk of these $10 decks, is because it makes things indestructible, which is really nice. Yuriko, going at me again, so it's going to ninjutsu into Fallen Shinobi. We also have this Tireless Provisioner, which we're not going to get too emotionally attached to because it is going to be leaving the battlefield in the very near future. Coming over here, we're going to be playing these Parallel Lives, which was a fantastic draw. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control and creates twice that many tokens, which now means that Vishgraz enters with 6 1/1 Phyrexian Might artifact creatures with Toxic 1, and it can't block. Look at them. They're absolutely beautiful. So right now, to say that we are in a monstrous position is kind of just understating it. However, you should run interactions, and a Damnation is great interaction. However, one thing to note, is so really nice about this deck, is that all the ways that we can return Vishgraz from our discard pile, and that's why Geth's Summons is here. So when the Damnation happened, we were able to throw Vishgraz into our graveyard, which we're then going to be able to grab with this. Oron Viper, it has Death Touch and draws cards that deals damage to a player. And then we have a Dark Ritual to bring back Yuriko and a Mistcloak Herald over here on the ninja side. This deck seems really cool, and I think I'm going to build a Yuriko 10-ticket deck in the near future. Geth Summon, bring back Vishgraz, make a bunch of tokens, and then I'm trying to remember what I did here, but I'm pretty sure we played the Chromatic Lantern, because this Malakir Rebirth draw meant that if we kept mana up, which you'll normally see me tap out because I don't play a lot of interaction, but the Malakir Rebirth allows us to keep our Vishgraz back if we ever need to protect it from removal, which is a very powerful effect, and it also brings them back onto the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, which means that we get another 6 Might tokens from Vishgraz. And that is pretty juicy. Joel Rael, coming out. Treasure Map, a great card too. You should consider playing this one as well. This is coming at us. I think that it could have also fairly come in at us because we also wouldn't block. Sorry, it came in at the Yuriko player. But the Oran Viper also going to come towards us, but that's going to make a cat token. Honestly, there's a lot of really cool commanders, and I like playing on this because you can see also how these commanders can take further shape as you explore. Smoke Shroud gives +1/+1 and fly. When a ninja enters the battlefield under your control, you may turn Smoke Shroud from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. Also seems really good in this ninjutsu deck. We have taken a few things off the revealed cards here. It was a Mistcloak Herald. It was an Okiba Gang Shinobi, so everyone else just got drained for 5, which is pretty spooky. And now we are here finally making our first attack. I left one back accidentally as a misclick. That's right, you too will misclick in Magic the Gathering Online. It's just something that happens. Bringing in all this. As you can see, the blockers are coming in. We're going to see a Go for the Throat on our commander. That is where the Malakir Rebirth comes in. And it's such a powerful effect that it actually ends up causing the Zergo player to concede. Because it's just like really, really juicy. Notably, though, I think they don't let the blockers go, so they might actually survive, which is going to be crucial to our victory in the future. And then we played the Conjurer's Closet that's been in our hand for a very long time to flash the Vishgraz. So you can see, like, the gameplay loop is really simple. Obviously expanded by the amount of mana we have, but we are a green deck. So while you can't expect to have an explosive start like this all the time, because we have green in our deck, we are able to ramp efficiently. So you should, in theory, be able to be ahead on land when you can. Rending Vines, getting rid of the Conjurer's Closet, which I think is only fair, which is going to make another cat token. Notably, Merciless Eviction is a little bit strange in this deck, and as I play further, this would probably be something else. But at the same time, you can't expect to be ahead everywhere, and I still think the ability to go through all those is pretty nice. Farewell is also another option, but I'm not sure of the budget on that one on the top of my head. Once again, coming in here, revealing a land this time for this Eureka Swing. And it looks like we're getting some blockers out here. As you can see, our board state is very good. We're going to Anguish on making the Viper because it does have Death Touch. So our Vishgraz can then come in here, and there's going to have to be some issues when it comes to, dealing with and blocking. We're sending a bunch. We're sending in enough that if they block 2 of our mites and do removal, we'll still get through and kill them. And then we're just sending the other things in at the Jolrael player. And as you can see, it works out perfectly exactly as we hoped and as we wrote up. They're going to Tragic slip one of them. It's still going to be enough to get through. And then also, because the poison tokens are going to go on Rando Eastman, the damage from the Jaguars is not enough to actually kill Vishgraz because his toughness becomes higher. They're going to look for something, but unfortunately they find nothing. And as you can see, this is a pretty commanding win where we actually were able to fight through a board wipe and targeted removal against Vishgraz. Alright, I have another game that is a less kind of Soul Ring explosive start here, so let's kind of get this one going. One thing to I'll say at the start of this is that one player actually instantly conceded when the match happened. So this is only 3-player. This does happen on MTGO now and again, just something to be aware of, but it's free to play after you put the money into your deck, so that's, it's a little low stakes. Sir Conrad is one of our opponents. Whenever another creature dies or creature card is put in the graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your battlefield, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. And then we also have Prosh, Skyraider of Care. When you cast this spell, create X01 red kobold creature tokens named Kobolds of Care Keep, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast it. Flying, sacrifice another creature, it gains +1 until end of turn. Skull Clamp over here. If you look at our hand, this hand is certainly less impressive than the previous version that we had. However, we still have a Nature's Lore, which is going to be nice because we can immediately just play this and get Overgrown Tomb. It ain't a book. It ain't a book to get that out there. Looking at also on our hand, Infectious Inquiry and Infectious Bite are 2 nice cards. Contagion Clasp, removal, we have like a big board presence, so I think this hand was a nice keep, and let's see how it shapes up. A Phyrexian Arena over here from Sir Conrad. Also a Rakdos Signet, so we got some ramp over here from the Prosh player, if I can remember the name. It is Prosh. Squee the Immortal, you may cast from your exile or graveyard, obviously is very good with Skull Clamp. We did the Infectious Inquiry, drew some lands, so we actually are good for lands for a good chunk of time. Opponent's going to play Dogged Pursuit at the beginning of your end step. Each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So there's just going to be Drain City happening over here. Going to sacrifice the Squee to the Diabolical Intent to search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and then shuffle. And then Squee's going to come right back on the battlefield. Squee's very good in sacrifice decks. We have 5 mana, so that means it's time for us to play Vishgraz. Get him out here, get the Might tokens, and just start trying to poison our opponents. This right here is probably the scariest time for Vishgraz, whenever you don't have protection for him, because he probably is, I'm going to wager, kind of more kill on sight. Luckily, though, Sir Conrad also costs 5, so I figured it probably is going to cost 5 here. They're probably going to play it, and we just hope we can avoid it. Skull Clamp, because you can't say no to value on the Squee to draw 2 cards, and then a Prismatic Geoscope, which is going to tap for a bunch of mana. Taps for X combination of colors, where X is the number of basic land types among types you control, which is, like, a good chunk. Notably, we Infectious Bite the we Infectious Bite the Sir Conrad to get both sides down. We're sending in 3 here and just our Vishgraz over here. Notably, our Vishgraz hit for a good chunk of damage and is going to continue if we keep attacking and hitting with a good chunk of damage. That's why it's very nice for us to be able to do this. Our opponent plays Erebos, God of the Dead, which is great because shields are down now. And I'm keeping up this eerie interlude to kind of just watch this because I think, hey, you know, we might be able to do something with this. Dark Ritual on our opponent's side. Eerie Interlude is going to act as protection, but it's also acting as a way for us to get more mites on the battlefield. Our opponent plays a Perforos. Our opponent then taps out to play Survival of the Fittest, which is obviously, like, seems like a good card. But it means that shields are down now, and we're actually able to eliminate the Prosh player this turn. So Eerie Interlude is going to send Vishgraz back into the battlefield. I'll be back. Sorry for the... I'm just talking so fast, my brain sometimes gets there. We're then going to untap. We're going to play this Contagion Clasp to kill the Squeak, which allow us to then send 4 of our mites at the Prosh. Everything else, except for, once again, I left 1 back. If you're going to play this deck, make sure you click everything. We're sending all those at the Sir Conrad player. Then 9 and 5, we're going to proliferate, kill the kill the Prosh player, get the Sir Conrad to 6, and notably, we also have dealt 18 commander damage. So, like, 1 more hit is, like, for sure dead. So their opponent's looking for lots of answers. They're desperately digging through Erebos, God of the Dead. They don't find anything, and they concede. That's a turn 7 win. Notably, there was 1 less player. We have to just respect that. So while the first game had, like, you know, mass token, like, fast mana that went through the roof, and then we also had, like, you know, crazy token producing effects, I think this is actually a better showcase of kind of what the deck is capable of doing. We also had Flicker Wisp to, you know, continue to flicker him and get more might tokens. I think that it's been a fun deck to play, and I'm hoping it interests you. Like I said, there's a little bit of caveats, like little asterisks on both of the wins here, but the deck still functions, and the deck is very powerful, and the deck is kind of scary. These mites can do a lot, and with proliferate effects, Contagion Clasp, you know, other things that can, like, you know, put poison tokens on, like the Infectious Inquiry and the Infectious Bite, which are great cards to get us started. Wormquake here would have dropped down a lot of spooky worms. Yeah, I think that this is a very fun deck, and you should try it out if it interests you. And otherwise, if you like this video, let me know in the comments by commenting or liking or subscribing if you've not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching. If there's any commanders you want to see me make a 10-ticket deck for, let me know in the comments, especially if they're not creature-focused decks. As you can tell, I like my creature-focused decks. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.